Welcome back to the Titanic Museum Attraction Podcast. This week, we are all prepared for the upcoming holiday celebrations. Halloween. We all know the holiday and its traditions. But do you know the history behind this spookiest day of the year? It dates back all the way to ancient Celts, celebrating the end of harvest and beginning of a new year with the festival of Samhain. This break of time and season led the Celts to believe the boundaries between more than just harvest and frost were compromised. On this day, they also believed the line separating the world of the living and the world of the dead also became blurred, allowing ghosts to return and enabling druids and spiritual prophets to make clearer predictions on future events. These druids throughout history play an important role in ancient society. They were leaders, judges, teachers, medical physicians, political advisors, and even, you guessed it, spiritual mediums to the other side. The future of society often rested in the hands of these druids and prophets. Their visions could predict any trouble to be expected: war, famine, natural disasters, sickness and plague, and the unknown for many of these early societies was the difference between life and death. Now we know these beliefs were drastically changed when Christianity was introduced, and the reliance on soothsayers and spiritual communication was far less popular, and even taboo. So you can imagine my surprise when I came across the story of William Thomas Stead. William Stead was a 63-year-old first-class passenger on board Titanic, an accomplished, if not controversial, writer, publisher, and activist. William worked tirelessly on campaigns promoting peace, end of war, and human rights. His written words were a voice so loud, his works often sparked political and social movement, even when his own reputation would take a blow in the process. William was on board Titanic, traveling to America at the request of President Taft to participate in a peace conference. The anti-war cause was beyond a passion of his, and as a result, William founded and edited his own weekly edition, War Against War. But before War Against War hit the newsstands, Stead published a few controversial and even, some would say, fanatical works. Between 1893 and 1897, he edited the periodical Borderland, which was a piece devoted to spiritualism. He often published articles inciting his communications with the other side via seance. But even more chilling are the two fictional stories written by Stead. One, How the Mail Steamer Went Down in Mid-Atlantic by a Survivor. It is a short story telling of a disaster at sea, ultimately causing great loss of life, partly due to lack of sufficient lifeboats. In closing, Stead noted, "This is exactly what might take place, and will take place, if the liners are sent to sea short of boats." And another, From the Old World to the New. In this work, a ship is wrecked due in part to a collision with an iceberg. Both of these works were written long before Titanic set sail in 1912, but both have since been credited as valid and intentional predictions into the future. William Thomas Stead did not survive the Titanic. Knowing all this, and according to folklore, the supposed clairvoyant Stead had anticipated his demise on the Titanic. His last moments have been depicted in many works, as William calmly reading a book in the first-class sitting room, quietly awaiting the sinking among the chaos and mayhem around him. However, according to an eyewitness account, in a letter to Mr. Stead's own secretary after the tragedy, a Mrs. Shelley Pins, and when he could do no more, he stood alone at the edge of the deck in prayerful attitude and profound meditation. Steed had many correspondents surrounding his trip on Titanic, and they did not indicate he was a man anticipating his own end. Were the works of William T. Steed a premonition into the future? Or were they just a work of fiction popular for the time period? There is much mystery surrounding the Titanic, and it's a common and even natural human reaction to search for the signs, to look for clues, anything to help process such a hard and tragic disaster. We'll leave it up to you. Do you think these were signs and alarms from beyond, just as in ancient society? Clues and alerts from the other side warning of disaster ahead? Or do you think it's all relative? A coincidence of the world at the time. Shipwrecks were more common, icebergs had claimed many vessels before Titanic. Whatever side you find yourself on, or maybe you don't find a side, but rather accept both arguments, we all have a touch of spiritualism. Call it intuition. Call it bad vibes or good chemistry. It's all part of the human experience, and certainly on Halloween, those experiences might just be a little stronger than the other 364 days. So, as we all don our Halloween costumes, hand out candy, and carve our pumpkins, let's remember those ancient societies, celebrating in a not-so-different fashion. The carved pumpkin was to light the path of those lost souls seeking home, and coming across a spider was a past loved one making a visit. Bobbing for apples was a marriage prediction. So, what if this Halloween we left our lights on just a little longer, and instead of disposing of the spider, we welcome its visit, and for just one night, we embrace the unknown.